Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gents. I'm Daniel, Doppio, whatever you like to call me, and I'm here
Danny
with.
boy. I'm Bounty. I'm Bryce. Bryson. I don't know what's a funny way to say Bryce. I've been told that my girl name would be like Brianna or something.
I had a friend in high school who was a rapper named Bryce, and he called himself MC Rice, like B. Rice.
I had a girl in high school who once made a rap about me, and it was like his name is Bryce. He's really nice. He likes to cook the rice. It was awful. It was awful. But like, what's even worse is that I never pursued that relationship at all because it was clear she was into me because she wrote a rap about me,
Well, I
right?
don't even
And
blame
she
you.
knew I liked rap too. So
Even if someone did that to me, I'd be like, look, man, I respect it. Thank you for the appreciation, but this is not a relationship. Your bars are trash. Get the
I
fuck
was
out
just
of here,
about. I was
dog.
about to say like, yo, these bars aren't good enough. Sorry.
You still
It's
do it.
it's like American Idol where you're like, it's a no from me, dog.
But yeah, we're back with Frame Trap number 8. We've been the podcast has been a little bit erratic just because my schedule's been really weird.
Yeah, my
Everybody's trying to
schedule's
figure it out.
been it's hard to mess up, but and plus like on this week we've had a lot of like fighting game news. Like we tried
Yeah.
to do the podcast on Sunday night, and then we were like, wait a minute, the fighting game round table is tonight. We should
Yeah.
just like postpone it again so we can talk about stuff on the fighting game round table.
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't watch it because it was a little bit late for me. I had to go to sleep. But
I didn't watch it either.
Oh,
Luckily they didn't announce a lot. They just went over like the Street Fighter 5 changes and then like what's it called? Omega Rugal. That's about
yeah.
it.
And DNF Duel release date. I think so. The next the release date for KOF DLC is April 14th, and then what is it? DNF Duel comes out June 28th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. That's hype. And they announced some stuff about Guilty Gear, right? Which was fucking sick. Testament. All right.
Testament.
Testament. Dude, I'm goated. I'm fucking losing my shit right now.
I am very, very excited for this character because as you know, Doppio, I'm playing Kai in Strive, which is for those of you at home and viewers, I play Akuma, Sagat, Bedman, Dormammu, Ultron. There's a common theme among all these characters, right?
No
and then,
fundies?
and then, in,
No, go.
and then in Strive, I'm playing Kai, right? And like all 5 of these characters have something rude to say about their opponent, or something like neutral, kind of like Sagat, where Sagat just won't acknowledge you, right? But it's like I play Kai and I win a round, and you want to know what the motherfucker says? Oh,
GG.
let's go again sometime. I really had tons of fun, and I'm like, get this guy away from me. I hate him so much. Like, how can I be satisfied with a round win if I'm like, GG's, friendo?
Yeah.
Duh! Let's go again!
It's not your style. You just want to tell them BGs. You're trash. Get the fuck out of here. This is my game. You're like me, but like I play Leo. I wanna just say some stupid fucking himbo energy shit, and like write in my dictionary while I'm like overheading you with
at least Leo will fulfill that fantasy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And like I played most of the cast by now, and I've been like, nobody's working, so I guess I'm playing Kai, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like Testament coming out is like super good for me because mid-range strong normals, Bedman has that. Teleports, Bedman has that. Strong projectiles, Bedman has that. Only strong in specific parts of the screen, Bedman has that. Like, and I'm just like, finally, a character I can grind with. Hell yeah.
I'm just happy because his dub voice is a man, and he has the thickest thighs I've ever seen. That man is just built right. All right, he's built correctly. That is. This is what we've been. This is what we've been going to this entire time. In fighting game design, we've been looking for the peak, and Testament is the peak visually. That shit is just godlike. And they give him a top hat. That shit's sick.
Testament's male voice actor sounds like you could put on those like YouTube videos where it's like 19th century music that will make you sound like a evil villain. That's literally what his voice sounds like, and you just put that on as you're playing Testament, and you got the full experience.
I'm a fighting game player, so I don't listen to those playlists. I listen to 1950s Doomer German pop.
Doomer German pop.
I don't know what it's about. It's so funny because every single thumbnail is just something. It's like that meme of the guy smoking and looking depressed. That shit's great. But yeah,
my favorite thing about this announcement is that they quickly put out the guide about Testament. I hate it when like we all have to watch like 30 seconds of a trailer and just guess on what the character is. So I really appreciate that. Like they were like, okay, one day let's just put out the guide.
Yeah.
And you get to just watch what the character does. And I don't know about you when you were watching the guide, but this announcer for this guide sounds so disinterested in whatever he was announcing compared to other announcers that they've had.
I mean, kind of. He just sounded really like an old guy. He sounded like a sage.
He literally said the word succubus and was not excited at all. Like, how does that happen?
He's the Gandalf the Grey of the fighting game of like the fighting game announcers. It's like, hi, I'm here to tell you this fucking weirdo. Tell you how his pros work.
True.
And then he tells you, and then he leaves, and he's like, okay, I got paid. It's honestly, I think the guy did a good job of like explaining all the stuff, which is like what you look for. I think his moves look really sick. I like how like still looks like he has that sort of like pretty annoying like super aggressive gameplay, or like not super aggressive, but just like super trap based, and he can kind of just like control you right from like everywhere. And he has the big buttons and shit. That's really cool. That's like what I think of when I think of Testament. I always kind of liked Testament. I thought it was cool. But I don't play him in Plus R because I'm an Anji main. I actually don't know who I play in Plus R. I play like but like yeah, I hope he's not like Plus R Testament broken, but I hope he's like he's good.
I doubt it. If you watch the guide again, like they specifically designed the character to only be powerful at specific moments and specific parts of the screen. And like they even give strong tells of like where is he powerful, right? Because like you do the strong like ground projectile, right? That's very slow, but will cover like basically the entire like area in front of you. And then the pixie shows up. So like you have the blood wave, then the pixie, so then you know that the crow can hit you potentially and stuff like that. So you have like as a defender, you have like lots of tells like, hey, he's really weak to air dashes right now. Like you could potentially air dash at him. But then he does the same thing for the anti-air one. So, like, he can cover this part of the screen or this part of the screen. It just depends on what he wants to do. And that means that, like, even though he can be powerful when he's, like, playing well, he still is very weak in specific areas, right?
Yeah. I think, didn't they also get rid of, like, the traps?
Yeah, there's no traps per se. Like, there's still EXE beasts. But it's like the EXE beasts are way weaker. Like,
they're just projectiles at that point, right? Set up into like crow.
Well, it's more they're like tracking projectiles where it's like it's spacing dependent. Where like sometimes they won't track depending on the spacing, but it's like the thing is that like there's the low and like the low does not look plus enough for you to continue pressure. It's just like I think it's a frame trap ender, honestly, and then there's the high where it's like it's a basic 24 frame overhead where it's like oh you just react to the high. You know?
Yeah.
But it's
a lot it looks a lot less oppressive than like Plus R Testament where he's doing all like 17 different things at once to you and you have to like block all of them, right? Because like you have EXCBs, then you have the crow fucking hitting you, then you have like a tree and like an invisible like no, he's got like these options and you can do them on this part of the screen and they're really powerful here, right? But like he's not gonna be like losing his fucking like he's not gonna be doing a bunch of crazy shit to you all at once. It's very contained. But it is still it seems really powerful.
The biggest thing for me that'll make this character like very good is the run speed, because Strive has a big interest on wanting you to run the throw game, right? And a lot of Testament's normals are very like this mid range, right? And the pushback has to be pretty immense, right? So it's like for the Testament to work out, his run game has to be pretty quick. So then he can like close the gap before my opponent can react.
Yeah, I mean, I also think I'm sure he will, and you saw it in the trailer a little bit. But I think like I hope if his anti-air game is good too, I think he'll be like really, really good. Because if he's able to control space like that and he has a really good anti-air, like he could already use up EX CVs to like, catch you, but if he has like a really good 6P, right, that like combos and the stuff or like has a lot of threat to it, it'll be good. Like, because that's a big problem I think with a lot of characters that we like, or at least with Bedman, it's a really big problem. Like,
Oh, I think he's going to have like a really dominant game of the neutral. Like, I feel like playing reactively with the character is going to be really, really good. I mean, that's most characters in Strive because that's how they want you to play. But it's like, what I mean is that like it seems like when Testament is in advantage state, it's going to take like the two things that I see like, that will make this character good is if how fast can Testament crank risk. Like, does EXE Beast, like the low EXE Beast, create like a lot of risk opportunities? Then all of a sudden the character becomes like pretty interesting because remember, he still has the Pixie teleport.
Yeah.
Right? And then like all of a sudden you get a free counter hit off of your overhead. So it's like that can be pretty powerful. Or again, like how powerful are these frame traps that you can go for, and how susceptible are you to jumping?
I think overall he looks like a really. Go ahead.
Thinking about it, thinking about the jumping equation, because like I was saying about like the range of his normals and specials, if he's really susceptible to jumping out of his moves, it's gonna be pretty tough. Because like even if you throw out your anti-air,
like exhibit,
well, your anti-air like projectile, the one that goes.
Isn't that EXE Beast?
No, EXE Beast is the alligator thing that comes as an overhead.
Oh, yeah, the blood projectile.
The blood projectile. So like, even if you do your blood projectile anti-air, it's like they can just jump, like, and then block, and it's like the only thing that could be bad is that like you're really plus after that.
You're really plus, and you set up a crow after that. Like
maybe. Yeah. Like if you can manage a stain situation out of that, then I could see that being pretty good for Testament. But it just depends on all these like little small factors that comes into being a good character in Strive.
Yeah. Honestly, regardless, I think he's gonna be cool, and I think that's really important. And also, like I think all the characters in Strive are fairly well balanced, and there hasn't been a DLC that's necessarily like terrible. I think the closest thing to that would be what like Gold Lewis, but Gold Lewis is good. He's good. Yeah, it's just he is like he's more polarizing than let's say like all the other like a lot of the other DLC characters. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like it's gonna be pretty interesting to see how he like shapes up.
My biggest thing that I really like about the character is the agenderness of the character. Like I was talking about this idea where like because they're so agender, does that mean like I can have a headcanon for the character that's whatever I want? Like, is my Testament female? Sure. Is your Testament male? Sure. I like that concept a lot because it enables me to make the character like in my head like whatever I want.
I also think the like that sort of part of Guilty Gear is important to a lot of people. Like the expressiveness and like the actual way the character like acts in like character, I guess, is like really interesting because there's a lot of characters in Guilty Gear that just don't exist in other games and systems, right? And like that can be a part of how like the fantasy of it, obviously. Like there is no 300 IQ kid strapped to a fucking bed that wakes up and turns to fucking stone. But I've heard from many people that like say there's a lot of like representation in Gear that like you just don't see in other places, which I think is really cool. That's also really, I mean that's a win no matter how you look at it. I'm also really fucking hyped because they fucking showed Bedman's sister.
They did show Bedman's. Well, we don't know if it's Bedman or Bedman's sister or not because there was no dialogue, and to be frank, the Bedman sister that they showed was like flat chested, so it's like we don't know if they're female or male.
Yeah.
So it's like it could be like a revived Bedman or it's Bedman's sister, and we don't know. But it's very cool.
Either way, I have a conspiracy theory about it, actually. Now get your tinfoil hats on.
Let me get my tinfoil hat on. Okay. Nice and prepared. If you look wait. I gotta seal it up. Okay.
You gotta seal it up?
Yeah, the signals might get into my brain. Okay, now I'm ready.
Okay, so I don't know. You saw the images, all right? And the arrow on the Bedman's head was brown. Now I don't know if you know in what other context Bedman's arrow on his head is brown. All right, and it's when GC Yoshi picks his color. Now, I'm not saying that GC Yoshi has
Oh my
any.
god, I'm so glad I
Alright.
put on my tinfoil hat. Oh my god.
I'm not saying. No, I'm not saying GC Yoshi has infiltrated Arc System Works and is trying to push the Bedman agenda. I'm just saying that he's doing God's work. Okay. Um, he's making Guilty Gear Strive a better place for all of us. Right? No, I'm actually really hyped. I from what I've heard, I heard rumblings about like there being like stuff in code of like like models of certain things that like are associated with Bedman. Like there's the model of the bed frame. But like I think you and a lot of other people were like, don't get your hopes up. There's a lot of shit that ends up in code that people just don't use, right?
Well, the other thing is that like when a bunch of the first season characters got data mined, they threw in a bunch of other models, and I think they could have like thrown those in as red herrings. Like let's just throw in a bunch of old models for no reason, just to throw these people off.
Yeah.
And that's why we got Jacko all of a sudden. That's why we got now Testament all of a sudden, and it's like
these weren't characters that were like sort of known
they,
about through data mines. They were just completely their own thing. So yeah, like I was understanding like it's probably not the case, but it's kind of cool to see that that's even period. But now to see like Delilah or whoever it may be, whatever bed person, to see them in the story is like, oh shit, this could actually be happening, which is really cool. Because that's some fucking hopium right there that I've been holding in for how long has it been, Bryce? We've been having this
for a long time, like 3 years.
That shit's crazy, man. I'm hyped.
In the Bedman Discord, we actually had like a small discussion in the off-topic section about like what would we want from a Delilah, and we were talking about how like somebody said they want them to be an insomniac, which is basically like the opposite of Bedman because like they have to be awake all the time. And then Drifter said that like, what if she has an IV drip for coffee 24/7, so then she never sleeps, right? So then I me being like more mechanical and like analytical about these types of things, I then responded and was like, I'd like an inverse of Bedman's mechanics. So like how Bedman will always replay stuff.
Yep.
I want like a play and pause character.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I strum up like a sort of idea in my head of like, what if she had like a multi-hitting projectile that had gaps on it if you played it, right? So you can go for tick throws, or you can use it for combos if you paused it and made juggle states. Right?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and then my other idea is that because in the concept art for Bedman themselves, they went for a very horror-like theme. Like originally, he was just the frame of the Bedman, right?
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be like a serial killer of some kind with like a gigantic like rusty cleaver, right? And I was like, I hope that they play into some form of like that horror element more because Bedman, even though I love him a lot, he's not necessarily horrifying. He's just like a very cool villain, So I was thinking like maybe for the female, she's like crazier than Bedman, and like she wants to murder people or something like that.
Yeah. And honestly, like I think pushing that horror theme, I think you can hear it a lot in his theme too. Like especially the beginning part, it's very like horror-esque. It's like alluding to something, but it's not like really that horrifying. It's very like just sort of like subtle about it, but it's also not like any sort of it doesn't really feel creepy or anything like that. It's just kind of cool. But yeah, I think if they push that aesthetic of it a lot, it'll be really dope. I think Drifter's idea of the coffee drip is really funny. I think that would actually be hilarious. And yeah, like having a sort of mechanic, like doing an inverse, because I don't think you can have Bedman's mechanics in Strive. Like if I was doing like 2P5HS be replayed frame traps on people and like looping that shit, I think Strive players might punch me in the face. Like
they punch you in the face, and then I would want to punch myself in the face because God, would that be boring in Strive system mechanics?
It really would be. Like I don't think it would really work, and it would be as fun as it is in Xrd. I just hope they don't fuck it up like they did with Rev 2 in a sense where it's like like Deb said in one of her recent videos where it's like the character mechanically it has all of these cool things, but they're very much so a knowledge check, and then it like pigeonholes the character into playing a certain way, where
Yeah.
like the character has to, like cannot. If you know about these things, there's nothing the Bedman can do to really like counteract it. I hope there's a lot more depth and a lot more layers, but based on how characters have been in the Strive system, I think that'll definitely exist. Because even characters that work kind of similarly, that have these like weird mechanics that don't really like work like other things in Guilty Gear, like Happy Chaos and stuff, right? They've been very well balanced around like, okay, this is what this character can get away with, and they have a lot of really strong situations, but there's counterplay to it. There's ways to work around it. Even though it is strong, there's ways to like, think about it, and then the Happy Chaos player can respond in turn, right?
The biggest thing about the Rev 2 design of Bedman is that like they removed 6HS, which was a core part of Bedman's kit. Like it was very, very core because it made it so that like Bedman didn't have to rely so much on strike throw because he had legitimate like options to call out mashes with like a mix up in tow, right? And then like they removed 3H and 2HS launch and made it only on counter hit, right? And like it was basically like these three things that made it so that like his character design just broke down because like all of a sudden like your confirms aren't consistent. All of a sudden your win condition is harder. All of a sudden like all these things are going to be different because they decided to make these changes. And I think it was because they wanted to rework Bedman to work differently, but I honestly think they just didn't have enough time in development to finish up developing it because 6HS as an idea is interesting, but it's not it doesn't match the rest of Exerd's gameplay, where Exerd will give you a move and it'll let you have ideas on how to use that move, right? But like 6HS is just so straightforward that it's like this is like the exact opposite of the design of Exerd.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't really have a lot of depth to it. It's a very like some kind of pretty simplistic move.
With how like thoughtful the design process for Strive seems to be with all their characters, I honestly don't see them like messing it up. Like if Bedman comes out, they'll be fine. My biggest thing is actually like I just want hover back. I'd be okay with any other mechanic. Just bring back hover. That's it.
Yeah, that's fair. I honestly, I think if we have 8-way dash, like we'll feel it home, regardless of what it is. I think it's like that's the glue that holds Bedman together. And then for other stuff, I know we wanted to talk about like for other releases and stuff from the what is it called? The Fighting Game Roundtable. Omega Rugal, or just Rugal.
Omega Rugal. Yeah. I don't think Rugal has been in. Rugal wasn't in the last KOF. I don't think.
I don't know if he was in 14. I know he wasn't in 13.
So it's been quite a while.
Because
hasn't he been quote unquote dead canonically, right? And KOF is doing that thing where like, hey, our villain's back. You know.
Yeah. I mean, Ash is supposed to be canonically dead in like 13 or something. I don't know. Yeah. Like I don't know KOF lore, but like apparently he was supposed to be dead in 13, and then they like teased him in 14, and then they brought him back in 15 because like time shit. I don't fucking know. But yeah, I guess he's back now. Which is cool. I mean, he looks really dope. I think that
he does look very cool. My issue though is that I think they need to tone down the laser like effects, because it's like the cool thing about like the explosion effects in KOF is that when they're used like very little, it adds like a little bit of flavor to what you're doing, right? But when they're used up to the scale of Omega Rugal, it actually looks like I'm just puking on my screen. I'm just going to be honest. I'm sorry, Omega Rugal fans. Like, when he does, like, his command grab and then slams you into the ground and then the skull appears, I'm like, oh, did I just barf all over my living room carpet? Did I use Necalli V-Skill too?
I mean, it does look pretty wacky. I'll admit. I wasn't really a big fan of KOF 15 style until there's a video by Idolism J talking about KOF 13, right? And he's like, look, guys, we know the KOF 13 is great, but there's like reasons why this art style isn't the way it is anymore, right? And so I respect it now, and I understand why they're doing what they're doing. And I think 15 is a really cool game to this day, and I wish I played it more. Just have, a lot of other stuff going on. But like, I think it looks like, I think that specific trailer was like, you guys are working on bit. There's a lot. There's a lot from like a KOF character, right? Where they're normally pretty like, I don't want to say they're like grounded, right? Because they can get pretty ridiculous, but like, it's not like, it's not Guilty Gear, it's not like BlazBlue or some shit, right? It's very like, you know, like, it's pretty low key in a lot of ways, or at least medium key, I want to say, right?
Well,
That's
it's,
just
it's
kinda,
definitely volatile.
in terms of like art style.
Oh, I meant like in terms of gameplay.
No, art style, art style.
Art style, yeah. Like the art style's like, it's like as if you took Street Fighter 4 and then upped the res a bit.
Exactly, pretty much actually. Oh fuck, that's actually yeah. That's, but yeah, I think it's really cool though to like put like such a like I think that with the DLC they've been doing a good job of like putting in a lot of characters that like people really like.
Oh yeah, it's free. And like if you
Oh, yeah.
beat him in the new boss battle mode, you get the armor that he wears. In the
Oh
boss
yeah,
battle
I heard
mode.
about that.
And it's sick.
That is really sick actually. I'm also hype about like free DLC for a lot of games. Like having free DLC is like super hype.
I actually think more fighting games should do it because like one thing that's actually really frustrating as a fighting game fans is like fighting games are very expensive. Like it's incredibly expensive to be a fan of these games, and even though, and I understand why, because like they're typically niche and they need to get like a lot of their money back. So it's like that's why they're typically pretty expensive. But it's like you spend $60 on the game, then if you're a real fan of the game, you spend like about $60 on a season pass, and then you have to spend like more of that over the years. And while that's happening, more fighting games are coming out, and then you have to spend money on those. But it's like, so having free DLC like this one and having it be this cool, thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I would agree. Honestly, I think the way that like a lot of companies have been doing it has been really like it's been getting better over the years. I still think KI has like a really sick model for DLC, and I wish more people did stuff like that. But even with games with paid DLC, I think they still do it fine. Like I know Skullgirls is doing that right now, and they're doing great because it's like the base game is so cheap that like having DLC for that game is totally fine, right? Because if you want to, and especially because character like. It doesn't really feel like the character's strength is super overbearing, so you can kind of buy who you want to buy and play who you want to play, and it's like fine, right? You don't need to own all the characters, which is nice in that kind of a game. But yeah, Omega Rugal is sick. They also talked about Street Fighter V and whatever's going on with that. Honestly, for me, the peak of that trailer was seeing Ryu do like V trigger Hadouken at the uppercut was like that shit sold me. I was like, bro, this we're good now. This is okay. This is a good game. We can all stay together in unison. Street Fighter V, they fixed it. They made it good again.
The other thing that sold me was the fireball, Kage shooting the fireball and being able to anti-air someone as they jumped in. Because before he couldn't do that. It was messed up. But the other thing is that like Akuma can cancel his specials into his specials. And I just want to pose the question to everybody here. Is Street Fighter V anime yet? Because it's pretty anime in this update. Like there are so many things that I'm like, huh? What?
They did give Rashid
You can do that. Oh yeah, that's right. They did. Like it's just like this is Street Fighter V. It has been known as like Street Fighter itself has been known as like I don't ever want to jump. I just want to shoot out normals. I want to zone you out. You know, I want to do my thing. And then you come to this, and you see Akuma fucking doing Tatsu 4 times in the air. And you're just like, oh, and this isn't like some Omega mode, like Street Fighter 4. This is a real update.
Yep. Well, okay, but to be, I mean, I would give more credit to Omega mode. They did some cool shit in that mode. But
I mean, they did. Like my favorite part was Ken throwing fireballs from his legs.
That was pretty sick.
That shit was godlike. I was like, oh.
They did it. This is the one thing we needed. No, but like, what was it? Like, I think a lot of Street Fighter players, and I meme Street Fighter players all the time when they talk to me about this, right? Because I was like talking to an old Street Fighter friend of mine, and he's like, dude, I don't play KOF, that shit's anime. And I'm like, dude, is everything anime to you? You fucking Street Fighter player? And it's great to me for not to talk to Street
Why
Fighter
would you say that about KOF? You literally do Street Fighter 4 confirms in that game. You literally go light, special into like your combo.
I don't know. Apparently apparently KOF is an anime game, as well as Killer Instinct and all these other things. But the point is, now that we can officially say that Street Fighter V is an anime game because Street Fighter players are talking about it becoming an anime. It's great. Every fighting game is now an anime fighting game, right?
And I'm okay with it. I'm completely okay with it because like growing up, I liked playing Smash Brothers. Okay, I know this sounds a little bit off topic, but it's like playing Smash Brothers was fun because it was expressive. Okay, like I could express myself in this video game. Okay, and then when I started playing Street Fighter 4, it was very difficult to express myself, right? And like the game, even though I know Street Fighter purists will be like, no, I can actually express myself really well with my one frame links that go like this because the combos are sick because of the one frame links. Shut the fuck up, okay? uh, the biggest thing is that like I like it when you can like give characters like just a load of options. Just give me tons of cool shit to do, right? And then like enable me to do that cool shit, right? And then like I feel like your game will just explode like even more. Like even Strive, even though I make fun of it for being limiting, it still goes off of this basis of give me cool shit to do and allow me to do that stuff because of the meter system, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm glad that fighting games are taking note of games like the anime fighting games and stuff like that and DBFZ and stuff and saying like, hey, what if we just enabled our players to do cool stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly with Street Fighter, the whole meme about like Street Fighter being anime, I think is also kind of dumb because like I've played Third Strike. I've seen Urian do like Aegis Unblockable, like Aegis, the full combo off Aegis into Aegis Unblockable into like fucking loop that shit or Yondu like jab short strong into fucking get agent and then just killing me. That shit's anime, dude.
Yeah.
If we're going off how hyped the fucking combos are, Melee is basically an anime fighting game. But
yeah, true.
It's really cool. Like I agree with you. I think it's really cool that they take those kinds of mechanics and they kind of run with them. Like they give you the freedom to do those kinds of things, as well as like stuff like characters like Oro or even Dan. I think like the way that they did Dan in this game is like really sick. I love Dan. So
there's actually like what has me like pretty happy about this is because it means that like in Street Fighter 6 they're willing to be expressive for that game, right?
Yeah.
But what's really funny about this, and this happens with every fighting game, there's a section of the Street Fighter 5 community who absolutely hates this stuff. They hate it so much. They're just like, bring me back to Street Fighter 5 Season 2 where Balrog was the best character, and I had to block an overhead that hits at the same time as the low, and shit like that. And they're just okay with it, and that's what they want. And it's like, it's just funny to me that like, us as anime players were like, yes, more expression in our fighting games. And then there's like these guys who came from Street Fighter 4 who are playing Street Fighter 5 from release are like, what? My binary code has more options than 1 and 0? What's wrong? What am I to do?
I want to make like a thing of like a sort of like a thing I put up on Twitter of like this is exactly what's gonna happen, and it's all the Street Fighter 5 players going like, oh my god, Street Fighter 5 right now it's so trash, like what the fuck? They put all these like anime mechanics in the game, it's so broken. Like X and Y character is so strong, right? Like fuck this game, I can't wait till Street Fighter 6. And then Street Fighter 6 comes out and they're like, bro, Street Fighter 5 was so good. They fucked up Street Fighter again. What the fuck is wrong with Capcom? How can they make such a dog shit game? And I'm gonna be like, dude, you were literally fucking like, is every version of Street Fighter shit when you're playing it until you're like, it's good when you stop playing
I like to think of it as like WoW expansions, because literally every single person on the planet who plays World of Warcraft will say the last expansion was better. Every single time. Even though if you look up videos of people talking about the last expansion, they'll be like, man, this shit is dog shit. I hate this mechanic and that mechanic. And it's just like, it's like the same conversation, but a different genre.
Yeah. Same dish, different day.
And
it's, yeah. But I'm actually, personally, I'm like, maybe I should play some Street Fighter 2. Or Street Fighter 5 or some shit. Like, like, I think it might be some fun. I don't know. It's something I'm like looking at too, because I have a lot of things I'm thinking about as far as like playing games and shit like that, or just like try and see what I like about it. But it's cool to see like these things coming to Street Fighter 5, and it's good to like we've been seeing it progress slowly and surely and becoming like go from like a kind of whatever game to like a game people are kind of cool with, and now it's like it's like easily very clear to see how good of a fucking.
Speaking of Street Fighter 5, there is an announcement that we forgot to mention.
What?
Crossplay got announced for Strive.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no fucking way. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they're going to have like a beta period for it too. which is going to be like insane. Like one thing that like I think is like incredible about crossplay is that like it just makes your player pool like triple basically, right? And so like the only thing that I think that they need to do about the crossplay is just add a queue system to Strive. Yeah. Because like I think they have the player base to support it now off of the crossplay, right? So it's like that way I can just turn on Strive, hit the play button, and then queue up and get into a match instead of having to deal with Habbo Hotel bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really cool. I think a lot of the LK fans would be happy because that man preaches, buy it on PS4, play it on PS4, because like that's the game. Like
tournament.
Yeah, like and I have friends that like my friend who I went to who plays Strive and like tournaments and stuff is like, fuck, like, maybe I have to buy the game on PS4 because like the delay is kind of crazy. But now it's like those people who want to play on PS4 because of the delay now have the option to like, oh shit, okay, I can like. I can get this game on whatever platform and be able to play with whoever, right? And if I want to practice in tournament, I can. It's easier for people to like play together. Like if they want to practice together or play together, right? They don't have to buy two versions. A lot of people have already bought two versions, which is like, it's kind of a shame, but like the fact that people don't have to do that anymore, and hopefully that's the standard going forward, is really awesome.
That's the biggest thing about this is that like we've noticed that Strive has become like a fighting game standard, right? So it's like I'm hoping that from this day onward, like people will be like crossplay is a standard. You have to have it. Yeah. So I'm hoping that like from now on, like when DNF Duel comes out, crossplay. Where's the crossplay? Even though we have rollback, and that was a surprise when the beta came out. We have to know what crossplay is.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of DNF Duel, actually, the game got announced for June 28th.
June 28th.
Yeah.
They also teased the mechanic, which I'm hyped about it. It's a new character.
The mechanic archetype.
Yeah, which I'm hyped about because she's a hottie, so. But they didn't show any of the mechanics of the mechanic. I'm still unsure about this game because, like, although I feel like Mix-Up is going to be, like, a little bit more interesting in this game than Granblue Versus, I still feel like comboing people feels like Granblue Versus, and that's my issue with the game.
Because, it's okay, like, Bryce. The gameplay is going to be loose. It's
my Christian ears. But I still enjoy, like, when I played Kunoichi, I really enjoyed playing Kunoichi. Like, not as like a competitive experience, but as like, I'm slamming buttons on my fight stick experience,
I enjoyed Grappler the same way. And I'm very hyped about Ghostblade.
Ghostblade seems very cool. Very, very cool.
If any of you have seen the Jujutsu Kaisen movie, my favorite archetype for anything is like character with sword, and then like they have something that fights with them.
A
like
persona, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's why I play Shabris, because Shabris is Boston girl with axe and like fucking bull, right? And they just fight together, right? And it's that synergy that's really cool. And I think Ghostblade, I don't know if it will operate in that same way, but the way he looks is super sick, right? And I'm really into wanting to play him. So yeah,
I'm actually very excited to see an updated version of this game because the last version was very jank. And like, I know Aiding likes to make janky fighting games, but I feel like this was like a little bit too much. Like I just want to see like a turned down version of this game, and then I also want to see them extrapolate on the mana mechanic that they're doing, because I actually really, really, really like this mana mechanic a lot.
The MP mechanics are really sick, like where it like limits how many specials you can use, and like it makes you think about a different resource like that you normally don't have to think about in fighting.
Yeah,
which is really cool. That's really cool.
And it also like makes Chip like sort of like, instead of just like, this is how much life you lose, it makes it like more of like a thinking part of the game where it's like Chip is a mechanic that I could take advantage of.
Yep. I also think, like, if they could, I think it's not even, it wasn't even that jank. It was jank, but I think the stuff that they need to remove is like actual problems. Like, I know Grappler had an infinite that was like super easy, that people were doing, where it was just like, up grab into up grab into up grab, and it would just loop. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll get removed.
That'll get removed. I hope stuff like that. But I think the actual way that the game played was really sick. The only other issue was no air blocking.
Yeah, I'm okay with no air blocking because, like, I like that,
Yeah.
because it's neutral. But like, the big thing for me about for the game is that like, I didn't feel like I was sticky because like I'll play Granblue Versus and I'll feel sticky, you know what I mean. And then I'll play BB Tag and I'll feel sticky,
I don't know what you mean.
Okay,
You
so
gotta-
like a big thing in Granblue Versus is that a lot of characters don't have very fast startup on their dashes, like ground dashes. So it'll
Yeah.
take a moment for them to move forward, right? So typically you're going to be using your walking because that's what they want you to do, right?
Yeah.
But in in BB Tag, whenever you go for press the throw button, you'll run first. Like it'll just do a run because
Yeah.
you put in the throw button, and it makes tick throws feel bad, right? So in this game, it has none of that. Like dashes are fast, you run fast. You don't. There's no like way to change the throws. The throws are just like Guilty Gear, and you
Yeah.
just throw people, and it feels good. And that's why I like it. That's why I'm saying like I like to press buttons in this game, but I'm hoping that like the toned down version of this game feels more like a quote unquote competitive experience that I could enjoy,
Yeah.
or at least an arcadey experience I can enjoy more.
Yeah. That's fair. I kind of feel the same. At the very least, I will definitely be trying out the game. Looks so that's really cool. And then I think the last thing on the docket for that stuff was just the Tekken anime. I had no fucking idea it was.
Yeah, there's a Tekken anime. The only thing I know about it is that it's based on Tekken 3.
Why? Why Tekken 3? That doesn't make any fucking sense. You can
I
make
don't
it based
know.
on like
I literally avoided the trailer because I knew this was gonna be trash. I just know it's gonna be trash. Like who asked for this? And like I honestly think it was just Bandai Namco because Bandai Namco makes animes for their Tales of series all the time, right? And then so I'm assuming that like, hey, but let's just make a Tekken anime, LMAO or something like that.
I mean maybe. It also I feel like this is some shit that Harada would want to do, but
You've seen all of Haikyuu, right?
yes, I have. I've read the manga.
You know the part in like season 2 when they have to defeat Okinawa, or
You mean the
or
guy
was
doing
his
the
name?
white?
Yeah, the girl in the
Oikawa.
white, Oikawa.
Oikawa,
Yeah,
yeah.
Oikawa. And so they meet like Hinata and what's his face?
Kageyama?
Kageyama go to that old man and they teach him how to do the secret move.
Yeah.
I'm now imagining the same old man except he teaches Jin how to do the devil sweep. He's like, no, spin as hard as you can, and be a
But
make
what if they
that.
sidestep it? Just do electric. It's easy.
That's the other thing that I'm imagining that too. I'm imagining like an old man who teaches him, okay, if you do this motion perfectly, your hands become electric.
You have to be frame perfect. What's frame perfect? I can't.
I can't explain.
No. Oh man, that's gonna be godlike. I'm actually excited. I might actually just watch that out of like sheer just what the fuck, like I want to. I hope the main character is Rollback 3.
Oh yeah, maybe. I think that's the villain. I think that's the villain.
No, the villain is Dan Fernacey.
Dan Fernandez.
Because he asked about Rollback 3. He's the evil one. He's the one that Rollback 3 has to defeat with the help of Devil Jin and Yoshimitsu hopping on a fucking sword. Anyway, no, yeah. I mean, it's weird, but I think it's funny, and I hope it ends up better than we expect at the very least. I mean, who fucking...
We also didn't talk about Persona release.
Well, I was going to talk about that in my section as well, because I have a lot to say. But sure, fuck it, we'll talk about Persona. Alright,
Okay.
So if you guys have been in the stream, you guys know that I have been streaming a shit ton of Persona since launch. I thought I was going to play Shadow Mitsuru, but honestly, I didn't really care for it that much, and I was like, dude, Shadow Lapras, this shit is godlike, alright? Because I gotta play like basically a normal character, but she also has like the bull, right? So I get to awaken, I get all my burst stuff, I get all that shit. But it's just that she's like super, like just super duper strong, and she's basically playing like an assist-based game, which is what I like about Bedman. Like I feel like I'm playing with an assist, which is like nice. Um, so yeah, I was playing her a ton. I was playing Sharpness like in I was hopping in lobbies with people. I was playing a ton. The game is kind of fucking buggy, or it's not buggy, but it was like borderline rat shit for like a while because I my game kept crashing when I would hit play or enter a lobby, and I was like, why? Like, is this game just shit on PC? It turns out if you full screen the game, it doesn't like the game just crashes whenever you try to play. I don't understand how that's a bug, but it is. So you have to like borderless window the game in order for it not to crash.
I'm so glad I'm so glad y'all were willing to alpha test this game for me.
I hate you. Look, okay, look. In the defense of the developers, immediately, like two days into the game, they made a thread on Steam, and they also made a beta, like a beta stream. So they were like, look, we're gonna be updating this like every week. Just tell us, like, all of your issues in this, like, thing, and we'll look through it, and then we'll be fixing it. Like, we'll try to fix stuff every week, like incrementally, right? Yeah. Which is cool. It does. You're kind of right. This is like kind of a beta, basically.
I mean, that's what they did to you. Like, there's so much shit that's like broken, and they're like, they hyped this up for like what 6 months.
The thing is the gameplay is not broken. The gameplay is actually great.
Wait. Did you just say Persona 4 Ultimax 2.0 gameplay is not broken? Did you just say those? Did you?
Not broken. It's not broken. It's not broken. It's not. It's actually. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong or broken with me doing Shadow Labrys command grab and then jump A and then block.
Yeah, that's
nothing wrong with that.
Sure.
There's nothing broken. There's nothing problematic.
Let me just close my eyes. If I close my eyes, I see no evil, right? So, therefore, Persona 4 Arena is not broken.
No, for real though, I think the game is actually pretty cool, and I think the it's not okay. I don't want to say I'm not going to sit here and say Persona 4 Arena is the most balanced fighting game ever, but there's a vast majority of the cast you can play, right? And it is cool in the sense that it's like one of those anime games that kind of gives you a lot of leverage and what you can do. And it kind of has that same feeling that like Xrd gives me, and other games give me, where it's like, oh shit, like there's a lot I can learn about this game. I can play this game a ton, and there's a lot of depth to it. The only problem is just delayed netcode. That was kind of what's been not souring me on the game, but it's made me kind of question like what I want to do with it, because it doesn't really have a super big scene, right? Like offline, and I don't really feel super jazzed about playing online tournaments in delayed netcode. It's just kind of one of those things that I just doesn't really get my gears going. So I'm not like holding off on the game. I've been playing it consistently still, right? And I've been really enjoying it. It's just that there's other games right now, like there's a Skullgirls local near my house, which I've been really excited to go through this week to try to ask and see if they can run a Persona tournament. And so I've been playing a little bit of Skullgirls just to get my refresh my knowledge. And it's like, yeah, this game's great. Like I like this game. This game is also all really cool, right? And there's a lot of really good options for fighting games. So it's hard to really like sort of like not see the flaws in a version of playing, even if you super like the game, right? Regardless, I'm still going to be streaming Persona when I have more time. School's just been fucking brutal this week, but
isn't it midterms right now?
I have my philosophy midterm Friday, and then I have 3 projects to finish up by tomorrow, and then on Thursday I have not projects, but I have to do all my music assignments plus a project that was due like I had to do for a month, and I haven't been doing it this month. I have to just write the whole thing like in 2 days, and then I have like all my bio homework on Thursday, and then the day after that is my philosophy. So I'm not gonna be able to study really at all. I have a study guide. Cool, I did it, but I've just been busy like a shit ton with like stuff in life, so it's been really hard to like manage fighting games with that. But especially coming around summer, I'm really excited to see how Persona kind of ends up shaping up, and like how much time I'm going to be able to put into it. Because even the little bit of time I've been able to put in, right? Like I think right now I have like, let me check my, this just popped up over the thing. Okay, well, you guys will all see it now. I have like 13 hours in the game after playing it for like 4 or 5 days. So, or not 4 or 5 days. It's been like something that ballpark of like I played it quite a bit. for like a week it's been out and I've had the time. It's been sick. I've really enjoyed it. It's just the I think it's kind of buggy and there's been a lot of problems with it in terms of like actual like integrity, like the structural, like the game itself, like minus gameplay.
So in response to that, I thank you for your service.
I hate you so fucking. Why do you do that? God damn it, dude.
You are truly a veteran of the Persona 4.
If you appreciate my service, come June. You better be hosting the fucking local, dog. Come on, son. You can't be doing this to me. You gotta build that scene. All right. And then for other stuff that's like been dropping, I guess that's pretty much been it. I mean, it was really just Persona, and then and then it was been Persona, and then the stuff in the fighting game roundtable, which is like really cool. Hopefully more news soon to come, though. We've got a lot over the past.
I mean, this fighting game roundtable was kind of like awkwardly placed because like it came after Arc Revo, where Arc System Works basically dumped their load and was like, "Here's all our announcements," and then like Evo is like coming up soon and stuff like that. So it's like, why would anybody have any announcements, like real announcements right now?
Yeah. Like, I'm thinking around Evo is when we'll probably hear a lot more about different stuff. I'm hoping maybe Street Fighter 6 release date and other stuff like that.
I don't think it's Street Fighter 6 release date. It's Street Fighter 6 gameplay at Evo.
Yeah, that's probably it.
The big announcements for Evo for me are Project L. Like, there has to be like a playable build.
Yeah.
Of some form at Evo, I think, because like my dev cycle for that game is that like show it off a lot at Evo, then late holiday season you come out with a beta for Project L, then late spring you release the game, and that'll mean like the dev cycle for that game would have been like 3 to 4 years, maybe longer.
Kind of like DBFZ actually.
Huh?
Kind of like DBFZ in 2017.
Yeah.
Evo, where they like had the game at 2017 Evo in the summer, and then it was like slow trickle of stuff until like December, and then they had a beta, and then like January the game came out.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm honestly I'm hoping for a lot more news around Evo time. I'm excited to go. I'm probably gonna be going to Evo. So possibly expect in-person episode that day, which would be fucking hype. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Evo. We'll keep you guys updated about our goings on and about Evo's goings on. Yeah, other than that, you want to talk about other esports character slots?
Oh, yes. So this is an interesting concept that I want to talk about, kind of like philosophy and game design-y, but it's pretty interesting that in the past like 10 years, esports games have evolved to include player identity to be a core experience of playing an esports game, right?
Yeah.
So back in 2000, I want to say 2009, League of Legends came out, right?
Yeah. And back when I was 6 years old.
And before and before that we had Dota, right? So and then Dota and League of Legends hit the mainstream. I'm not gonna act like Dota was mainstream. It's not.
Yeah.
And even though it's still pretty popular, it still isn't. League of Legends has champions in the game, and the champions, a lot of people will exclaim to others that I am a Zed main. I am a Nicole or Katarina main, or stuff like LeBlanc main and Vigar main, like stuff like that. And it's just like, it's pretty interesting that happened with that game, when typically that type of like language is used when talking about fighting games, right? And It's been that way since Street Fighter 2, where I am a Blanka main, I am a Dictator main, I am a Claw main, right? So it's pretty interesting that when League of Legends came out, you have all of a sudden people using the fighting game lingo in their game. And then you have TF2 that comes out, and TF2 uses the same language. I am a medic main, I am a scout main, I am a such and such main, right? And then also StarCraft 2 comes out. I am a Protoss player, I am a Zerg player.
I think StarCraft 2 is sort of like the pinnacle of that, because it's like a 1v1 game where there's 3 races, right? And you're not really, it's not really the kind of game where you're like sort of picking, you're not really counter picking in that game. You're sort of like,
you're picking a play style, basically.
You're picking a play style and you're sticking with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's very reminiscent of like fighting game, the way the fighting game. Like,
So like it's just very interesting that like, and then the more that this evolves, like the more time moves on, esports tends to evolve and say like we want this to be a consistent thing in all of esports games. Like for example, in CS:GO, you don't get to pick any main whatsoever. You don't get to be represented at all. But then Riot Games decides to make their own type of CS:GO, and they decide to have this concept of being, I am a Yoru main.
I'm X insert hero here main, right?
Yeah,
So
or I'm a one trick or whatever it's called, you know? So it's like it's just really interesting that looking at the modern landscape of esports, that even though it started with games like StarCraft 2 and Street Fighter, I want to say, that nowadays you can't imagine a esports game without having specific characters or quote unquote a character select.
yeah,
So
I think honestly with League and TF2 specifically, it's very interesting. Like as a guy who's played a lot of both games, both games, it's really interesting because you wouldn't conventionally think of those games as like games where you would main a character. Because if you look at super high level play, specifically for League, but even TF2 is very much so like this, where you're kind of picking around the opponents, right? Like if there's 9 classes in TF2, very often not all 9 of those classes are played in a competitive game, unless you're talking about Highlander. And like in like the most played competitive circles of that game, it's 5v5 or 6v6, and like you're picking set roles, but you're alternating too, right? At some points you might have to pick sniper. At some point you might have to pick a like a demo man, or like knock off a soldier for a different class. Like there's a lot of like variance in like on specific points on like what you pick. In League, it's even more so like that, where like there's in competitive play, there's no one tricks. There's people who maybe they pick a certain champion more than other people do, right? Like there's like pockets, right, that people like use those characters. Like they're like, okay, this is my pocket pick. I use this character, right? And that is kind of interesting in that way. But they don't just play that one character, right? Like specifically in League, there's like a lot of times where people are picking. They have a champion pool of like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or even like 7 or 8 or 9 champions, right? There's like a lot of champions that they're able to play because they have to at a high. You have to be able to do that. So to see that sort of like develop in League, where there's people that are like, yeah, I one trick this character. This is like my identity, right? Is really interesting. But I also think it speaks to like how people like to play games, right? And why fighting games kind of pull people in that fantasy. It's like, oh yeah, I want to be represented. Like this character has become my avatar. I want to show this is who I am through this, right?
And it's like that avatar-ness that's like it's pretty cool saying that developed, because honestly I think it makes esports games more of a game, because before they were just like, it was basically like chess, whereas like this is the mechanics and you're going to be interacting with these mechanics and then that's it,
Yeah.
like CSGO especially is a big example of that, where like these are the mechanics, you interact with these mechanics and that's it, so it's like it's very even Quake, like I forgot about Quake Champions
Yeah.
moved on to this, like we want a character select. So like I honestly think it just adds more fun to the player to be able to say like, I want this fantasy and I want to be this thing. And like, to quote Tim Rogers, in one of his videos talking about like his love of video games, he talks about this concept of like video games allows him to be a race car driver. Video games allow him to be a pilot. Video games allow him to date multiple girls, because that's in his Tokimeki Memorial.
Was it? I thought it was in the Doom one.
I think he mentions it multiple times in multiple
He does.
videos.
I remember he mentioned it in the Doom one, where it's like video games aren't supposed to be necessarily like, this is what I want to be in my life, but it lets you explore avenues of yourself that you might not be able to explore in real life, and understand what it feels like to maybe have a simulation of that, right? And like, I'm never going to be a 300 IQ. I mean, I'm 300 IQ, but I'm never going to be strapped to a bed and have to be asleep all the time, right?
Yeah.
But like, and I'm never going to be able to like do the shit that I can do, like that Bedman can do. But it's like, to be able to feel as though I can control that character and express myself with those tools is really interesting, right? In the same way that it's interesting to, play Doom and be this guy who's just fucking ripping and tearing through a bunch of fucking demons. You can't do that in real life, but it's fucking cool to experience it and see what it's like, right? And to express that side of yourself through a game. And I think everyone from every genre of video game can kind of feel that like connection, right? and expressing the ways that they want to play. But yeah, it's a really interesting topic. I've been hearing about it a lot more recently as well, with newer releases and stuff like that. Especially with like there being a league fighting game. You know, that connection being there is like really cool.
Yeah, it's like as if they went full circle. Like they started with the League of Legends, then they started with the Valorant, and now they go full circle making a fighting game.
They went from fighting games. They went from fighting game mains, StarCraft, and then League, and then Valorant, and then now it's all the way back to fighting games. It's pretty cool.
My biggest thing though is that like it makes me feel like there's like a hole in the esports scene currently because StarCraft isn't popular anymore, and I feel like, and I'm kind of like sad about that because right now it's like the only popular esports are like MOBAs, first-person shooters, and then I feel like fighting games are starting to get pretty popular. So
I want to say for in my head, at least, I feel like fighting games are like the biggest sport right now. Like a lot of the really big sort of like I don't want to say the biggest, but at the very least they have the most like consistent audience.
yeah,
Like because I think for a while it was like MOBAs, and then honestly MOBAs kind of like I don't want to say they fell off. But
I mean like they're like
they're like stable, right? But then
stable,
like
yeah.
there were other games that were sort of peaking at that time. There were like battle royales and other stuff like that. But then those genres aren't very conducive to like super consistent competitive play, right?
Yeah, like even Apex Legends, like they run 3v3 arenas.
Yeah.
So
Like it's not necessarily a battle royale game. It's very different, right? Like in the way that it runs, and it's still like what people play, right? As battle royales isn't really what's sort of seen competitively. So then that genre is kind of flaking and consistent. League is still always kind of here, but I feel like fighting game players, at least the way it's been expanding like more and more and more every year. And on top of that, it's like, oh shit, this genre has a ton of fucking super diehard fans for a bunch of different, right? It's not just one MOBA. It's not just one like battle royale. It's not just one of these games. It's a bunch of different. It'd be cool to see that with StarCraft. I think honestly, hopefully RTS has kind of come back because RTSs are a really cool genre and they're really interesting.
Microsoft just came out with Age of Empires 4, which was moderately successful. And they have said that like they like to, even though some of their games are niche, they like to keep them updated and keep those communities happy because they believe it's like it makes their brand it makes their brand better because like people treat them well, right?
Yeah, more security with their fans. Their fans feel like, okay, I've been respected by this company. Let me let me help.
Yeah,
them.
so with the Blizzard Microsoft merger, maybe they'll make more.
Hopefully, I would, as a person who has a interest in StarCraft, maybe a passing one, but it's still an interest. I would love to see, and honestly, as a guy who plays games, period, I would love to see people from all communities, experience that same sort of popularity. And it would be nice to see StarCraft kind of have a come up. And that would be really cool. At least in the West. I know it's still popular in a lot of.
There is another announcement that we didn't talk about.
What's up?
Figure mode for Strive. Strive is finally playable because we can play figure mode. What do you mean? How am I supposed to do my tournament announcements without figure mode? How am I supposed to do my fight card announcements without figure mode?
Y'all just want to see Jam's panties. You guys are fucking sick.
Jam's not even in the game.
You guys are evil.
No, speaking of Jam's panties, watching.
How are you gonna segue this?
I am. Wait for it. Okay, I'm a mastermind. Trust. I'm a 300 IQ Batman player, just like you, Doppio. Okay. So watching the story trailer, the one part where Delilah / Bedman shows up, there's a full profile shot of Baiken's titties, and I was like, literally, my first reaction of this was like, oh my god, they're fucking gigantic, and it's just too much, and I was like, and then I didn't even notice Bedman, and I thought it was a different character, was Bed Girl.
It's like the fucking Kylo Ren. More.
Yeah, yeah.
That video is godlike.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about WoW PvP because I've been grinding it this week.
Oh yeah, okay. How's that? Oh, yeah. How's that been?
It's been okay. My biggest issue with the game with WoW PvP is that like you still have to grind to get gear a lot. Like, and it's not as easy as it used to be because the way the system used to be is that like you would do battlegrounds, right? And then you would get a currency called honor, right? and then you would buy honor gear, okay? And back in the day, when you bought said honor gear, the honor gear would just be at the highest level the honor gear can be, right? You don't have to do anything else. It's just as good, you know? But nowadays, you have to upgrade the honor gear 7 times. And every time that you upgrade it, it costs more honor to upgrade. Okay? So I have to do practically like way more PvP grinding in order to get my full honor gear set. And then guess what? I then have to start playing rated PvP game modes, okay, to get Conquest. And Conquest is just honor, but for better Conquest gear, okay? And then the Conquest gear can be upgraded as well.
Oh my god.
So
They're just making you grind for no fucking reason to this, huh?
I mean, like, it has goods and bads where, like, I'm playing for a longer time because I still have a lot of progression to do.
You have goals to work towards.
Yeah, I have goals to work towards. But the bad thing is that when I'm encountering matchups where a person is, like, obscenely overgeared than I am, then it becomes a little frustrating because, like, I have to spend a lot of time grinding, and I just have to hold these L's for longer, you know?
Yeah. It's one of those things that I think also... It's like one of those problems with games that have that sort of system and then also have PvP, where it's like I want this to be my expression of skill, but it can't be all the time because I'm not at the level of these players, like, statistically. I literally can't I can't be there right now, right? So it always feels like a bad matchup, or always feels like an uphill battle, where it just sort of feels like it feels kind of bad, right? I kind of felt that in TF2 with, like, item unlocks, where
That's true.
If you don't have certain item unlocks, you just, like, certain characters are just worse, right?
Like how do you play soldier without the rocket jumper? Like, you just don't.
No, you don't do that. Soldier, you can actually play just completely stock. That's actually fine. I mean more like engineer
or sniper without the Razorback.
Yeah, sniper without the Razorback, or like the Girardi, or scout without, like, a different sort of like a different melee weapon, right? Like, those are things that significantly make the character better, right? Like exponentially make the character better. So not having those is kind of a problem in a lot of situations. Same thing with, like, engineer, right? Like, these are characters that, like, you kind of need the gear for, but if you don't have the gear, you don't have the gear. You're shit out of it. It's like, you know, and there are systems in the game to get them, but you have to grind for them. It's not easy to sort of, like, acquire them, and if you don't know about it, the system isn't made clear to you. There's no tutorial, so it's like, what the fuck do I do, right? It's just one of those things. I kind of get where you're coming from in that, where it's like, you just feel like you have to grind, and it's like, oh, well, I don't really want to hold these L's, but I have to.
Well, I'm okay with it in Battlegrounds, because Battlegrounds are, like, basically, like, to describe Battlegrounds, it's like, you know how, have you played Heroes of the Storm?
No. I've heard it.
Think of it like, you know how League of Legends has different maps for, like, different game modes? Think of it like that, where it's like, I'm playing a different map, and I'm not traditionally playing the standard, you know, League of Legends map.
You're playing Twisted Tree Line. You're not playing something
yeah. So then, like, I don't feel like the loss feels all that bad, because I'm not particularly playing the most competitive game mode. You know? So I don't really feel all that bad. It just feels bad whenever I walk up to the item upgrade vendor and I see how much further I have to go. You know? That's where it feels bad. But it's like, once I get into arenas, I think I'll have a more fun time, because arenas are vastly superior, in my opinion. My brother disagrees, but vastly superior to Battlegrounds, just because, like, in Battlegrounds, like, tons of things can just randomly go wrong. But, like, in arenas, if you get outplayed, you just got outplayed, dog. It's just like fighting games, you know?
I think for me, as far as, like, updates and stuff, like I said, I'm looking forward to attending my first fighting game local, because I've actually never really been to a local for anything other than Smash. I've been to like a regional semi-major kind of thing in the Riverside one that I talked about, Festival of Fights is up there. I haven't been to a local in a minute. The last one I went to was, I think, a Super Smash Sundays. For those of you who know what that is.
You went to a Triple S?
No, I went to multiple. I didn't go to one. I went to, like, a few.
Hell yeah.
Those were sick. I remember those back in the day being, like, super hype. But as someone who doesn't really play Smash anymore, it's gonna be really interesting 10. They're doing KOF 15 and Skullgirls, and as I said prior, I kind of wanted there to be a Persona local, but it is so close to my house that it's like this is like the closest local that I'm ever really gonna find. So I may as well just go and ask them if it'd be cool for me to host, which I will. And I've also been playing a little bit of Skullgirls, and it's been interesting for me as like someone who I kind of feel like I've found my stride with fighting games, where I sort of get the gameplay loop of like playing game, understanding what you do wrong, going into training mode, figuring it out, playing again, right? And just like when to do what, like when to review, when to, you know, keep playing, when to like all that stuff. And then like that feeling of improvement coming to you is like I've been sort of getting it, and it's been feeling really, really awesome with Persona and kind of a little bit with Skullgirls as well. And so it's been nice like learning like, you know, sort of like refreshing my mind on Skullgirls, and also like that sort of whole thing has been really awesome. I'm excited to go to this local just to like experience the fighting community like again. The last time I had that was like really awesome, and it was really fun to go to. So I feel like this is gonna be kind of the same story. And if they let me host Persona, I'll let you guys know, because there will be a stream for that. There will be a bunch of stuff for that. So that'll be awesome. What you laughing at me for, dog?
Nothing. I just think like, hey, this game came out in 2011. Do you mind if I run it here?
Oh, Skullgirls came out in 2011. Skullgirls came out in
still getting updates.
Persona's still getting updates.
Is it though, or is it just repackaged old update from 2012?
Hey man, it's not from 2012. It's from 2015. Okay. And second of all, it was only in Japan. All right, so technically this is a new version. I don't know what
repackaged. Literally repackaged.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Badly too, because it crashes.
Yeah, I mean, if you just full screen borderless window that shit, dude, it'll never crash ever. Never had problems with it in my life.
And your VSync will struggle because you're doing borderless.
That's true. Well, on PS4 it's been good. Side note, Persona on PS4 has been good. On console it's actually been perfectly fine, which made me think like maybe I should buy it on console instead. But you know,
there's no crossplay.
Yeah, exactly, no crossplay. Which brings me into my last talking point for the day, which was consoles, like practicing consoles on in tournament. So we kind of touched upon this in the crossplay section, and we've kind of brought it up in different stuff, but it's kind of interesting to me as like someone who plays primarily on PC. There's a video from LK talking about like the history of like the proper version of each game, and not proper in terms of like what you should play, but for what the game is designed around, right? So for instance, right, like Guilty Gear Strive, right, is sort of, no, I shouldn't say Guilty Gear Strive, but the example he uses is BlazBlue, right? So for those of you who don't know, BlazBlue and Persona 4, when they were originally designed, in arcades, they were 5 to 6 frames of delay, where on PS4 they were like 3 frames of delay, right? So there's a lot of stuff that people do on console or on arcade in Japan that hit people that you cannot hit on PS4 or on PS3 rather, right? Like for instance, his example was Lychee's like the staff, right, moves. They're like 20, I want to say they're like 23 frame overheads or 23 frame lows, right? And in Japan they get hit by that shit like all the time on arcade, right? But in America you can't do that shit, so it doesn't work, because if you have 3 frames delay, it's like 2 or 3 frames more delay, right? That in on arcade, that actually matters, right? And so, okay, these games are designed for arcade. This character is supposed to be a mix-up character, but if their mix-up doesn't work on console, right, because of the delay, I mean, it's pretty clear that they were designed for the arcades, right? Same sort of story with Strive is his argument, that like these games are played in tournament on console, right? And there's gonna be shit that are like in Dragon Ball as well. This was a very common situation where someone would play on PC and they'd be like, my defense is fucking sick, dude. Nobody can fucking hit me. And then you play that shit on console and you're like, what the fuck? This doesn't work, right? Or what the fuck? I'm getting hit by shit that I wasn't supposed to be getting hit with, right? Like why? And it's because you need to train on the versions of the games that you're actually going to be playing in the tournament, which I think is kind of stupid, personally.
I think that I think he's thinking too much into it a little bit, because like as a person who when he was competing in Guilty Gear only had PC version and rarely practiced on PS4 version, it's important to understand that like there's a lot more to your reactions than just frame delay, and like that argument kind of discredits that a little bit, you know? Like
yeah,
The biggest things that I would say about practicing on proper versions for tournament is things like combos and one player stuff, right? Because like for my personal time is that whenever I would play on PS4, I would struggle for like the first half hour that I'm playing because I'm doing different timings, right? But eventually I would get the hang of it, and it's not that hard of a thing to do. Like honestly, like I just recommend to anybody who only has PC versions, would just like go to a tournament a little bit earlier, play a half hour of casuals, and then you'll be good. Or do like a half hour one player mode, and then you're fine. And I've done that so many times, and my results have been pretty good. So it's like, I think he's reading into it a little bit much.
It was also because people were telling him like, "Oh, you should not be playing on PS4. You're stupid." And he's like, "This is the reason why I play fighting game on PS4." Right? And it also had he was also talking about how games did not like if you thought games came out late on PS4 or PS3 back in the day, they would never come out on Steam.
They never came out on Steam back in the day. Like I could remember competing in Rev 2 while I practiced Rev 1 on PC.
For real?
Yeah, that's how bad it was. Like, I remember when Rev 2 came out for the first time ever, and I remember being like, you know that meme of Squidward looking through the blinds at SpongeBob and Patrick having fun? And, like, I remember looking at my Twitter timeline just like that. And then, luckily, I had a local friend just be like, hey, here's my PS4. You want to borrow it for, like, 3 weeks? And I was like, oh my god, you're literally, like, are a blessing. And luckily, they let me borrow their PS4 until Rev 2 came out. But it's like, back then, it was like, if you only played on PC, you were just screwing yourself over. Like, but nowadays, you can say, like, I play on PC, and it's fine, you know?
Yeah, because games have simultaneous streams, right? And so it's a little bit more manageable. But yeah, this kind of came up for me as well, and I was thinking about it because when I went to that tournament, Festival of Fights, my friend who plays Strive was like, fuck. Like, and he's not the kind to make excuses. It was more just like, I need to get the game on PS4, right? Because this feels very different. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, like, because it honestly feels very like, it feels like my movement just isn't there. It doesn't really feel like I'm able to, like, do everything I want to do as comfortably as I am on PC. And I think a lot of that, some of that was probably the fact that he's never been in a tournament before, so it was, like, new for him. But it was also just, he plays Chip, right? And a lot of the timings and the things that he's used to just weren't there for him. Right?
If he only plays online, it could also be that issue where like he's used to online timings, because like a lot of players who only played online would come to tournaments and like their timings would just be completely off. Like there's like some funny cases with Vevian where Vevian would go to a tournament and people would be he would like be like, yo, check out this sick combo that I just lapped out, and then Al, who's one of my, I don't want to say good friends, but is an acquaintance of mine, would be like, oh yeah? And Vevian would try the combo, and then he couldn't do it. So then Vevian would then crank up the delay to like net play delay, and then he would be able to do it. It was so hilarious. So it's like, if you only play online, and this is your first offline experience, it can be jarring, you know? But the biggest thing is that you have to understand that like this is why training mode is so important. Like, and I always tell people, even though a lot of people say the opposite, that when you're training your training mode combos, do it on offline delay. Stop doing this like, I'm going to crank up the delay a bit so that I can do it on net play.
Well, crank up the delay to the offline version that you're going to be playing.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing Strive, crank it up 1 or 2 frames. Right?
Yeah, and I've seen people just be like, I'm going to crank up the delay to typical net play standards, and I'm like, don't do that. That's going to really fuck you up when you go to offline like locals.
Yeah. Unless you're like me and you're just a fucking extra net play. In which case, do whatever the fuck you want, dude. I've never played extra offline. I can't tell you. Who knows? But yeah. Other than that, I think that's honestly everything for this week. We've been having these past couple of weeks we've been doing like 2 pretty good sized episodes. Pretty consistent as far as like stuff to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping it short. And hopefully this is kind of the trend. I honestly like it when it's like shorter episodes. But if shit goes down, we got stuff to talk about. So yeah, I think that's it for me. You got anything else you want to talk about, Bryce?
Not really.
All right.
Been pretty good.
Well, yeah. I guess for this week, that has been the Frame Trap Podcast, episode 8. I have been Doppio, Daniel. whatever you guys like to call me.
And I have been Bounty.
Yep. And we'll be taking off for this week. Take care, guys, and hopefully see you next week. Have a good one.